Here we are. Okay, ready to go. Hello, Atlanta, Georgia, TA4EAI, cool. Al, good afternoon. First time able to watch one live, cool. Hi from Lompoc, in California, not far from where I used to live in Simi Valley. Hi from the UK, good afternoon from James Vickers. Hey, hello, Dave from K9 RPR. And good evening from Dan Jensen, who must be quite a ways away. Okay. Let's go ahead and cut to the live stream here. Thank you all for being here. I did want to clarify one thing about the videos this past week. I did an unboxing of the buddy pole, which I had ordered, and was set to do some testing, and in fact set it up outside in the back porch. The problem we have is snow and mud and all of that sort of thing, and being able to get at the various connection points to coax cables that go in the house and things like that. So I'm working on that. In the meantime, MFJ sent me, at their expense, their octopus antenna, so I did an unboxing on that since I wasn't ready to do the test on the buddy pole, but I'm planning to do both. And I'll just have to put my snow boots on and dig out those coax connectors and everything and see if we can't get some good solid testing. When I test an antenna, I want to have at least one QSO with it and do some A/B testing with other antennas and so on. So let's see, we've got some more greetings in here. What do I think about the M0 NKA transceiver? Not familiar with it. I'd have to look that up. I'm going to have to set up this live stream so that I can also go to a screenshot. Please excuse me, I've got a nasty cough left over from that cold. From Mauritius, did I pronounce that right? From Canada, Maine, the Netherlands, Kentucky, Tennessee, Denmark, wow, lots of different people there. Munich, Florida, Brownsville, Texas, South Carolina. Very cool, very cool. Good to see all of you today. Okay, so as I was mentioning about this video, I am going to do a more thorough test of the buddy pole, and I'm going to put it in a different position. Right now, one of the problems is it's too close to the house. There's some rain gutters that are just mere feet away. I want to get it a little ways further from that. Since the antenna is designed to be used in a portable environment, maybe what I'll do is I'll go set up in our travel trailer, put a heater out there, warm it up, set up in the travel trailer, and test the antenna that way. I'll get one of my little QRP rakes and take it out there. And then the octopus antenna, I think, is designed for a somewhat more permanent installation, although it can be used as a portable antenna very simply. So I may try that same antenna using the same mount from the travel trailer tube. So that's going to be quite a project to do that, and I can't guarantee I'll have all of that done by Monday so that I can make a video. I'm probably going to change the channel just a bit. Instead of doing my video drop on Wednesdays, I'm going to do it on Thursdays. My wife points out to me it ends up being Thursday anyway. Why don't I just make Thursday official? So I'm going to make Thursday official. Let's see. Bronx, from the Bronx, in New York. Idea from the UK. What is my favorite SDR receiver? Well, it is, and I don't know how well this will show. This is the, come on. This is the SDR Play RSP1. I have it set up here in a kind of a semi-permanent basis. And it takes the RF output from the RF receiver output from my FTDX 3000, and I can make these beautiful, you see the band beautifully. It makes wonderful, wonderful band scope. And it's, what, $100? It's not very bad. So that would be the one that I would pick. Can I use my RD5R to access my local repeater, which is System Fusion? I don't think so. RD5R is DMRF, I believe. Do I need to buy a Yaesu rig? Yeah, only Yaesu does System Fusion. Greetings from rainy Virginia. Send some of that this way. We're in the middle of a drought here. Good evening from Sweden. Watching from a cruise ship off Cuba. Well, very good. Thanks for all the training videos. Greetings from Vermont. Vermont, I need Vermont for my logbook of the world worked all states. Okay, we're, oh, I moved that a little bit. Shouldn't have done that. Okay, we've got 69 watching right now. I did set up, let's see, I'm using OBS Studio, and I set it up so I've got a camera over here where I can do stuff on paper and then just switch back to myself. I'm going to try and set up some other scenes so I can like go to a web browser or go to the SDR Play or something like that and show things off. So perfect conditions. Ground situated on 8 acres in the Arkansas River. Boy, you can put up just any kind of antenna you want there. That's great. Okay, we're starting we're starting our queries from December. Okay, so we've got a December one, and actually I printed off the last one just before the show, so Saturday, December 15th at 9:22 a.m. That is the last one I have. It's a fairly thick stack. We'll see if we can get through them here. All right. This is from Wayne Lamika, and he says, totally new to ham radio, just bought my first transceiver radio. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but when I try to input above 300 frequency, 300 megahertz frequency, I get the message that it's above the frequency limit. I downloaded the program from Baofeng, and it seems my ranges are VHF 130 to 179 and UHF 240 to 250. He does not mention which particular Baofeng it is. The UHF for ham radio should be up in the 400 megahertz range, and I believe all the Baofengs that I have seen cover the 2 meter spectrum and the 70 centimeter spectrum. So I don't know what this is, but you've apparently bought a radio that will cover 2 meters but not 440. He doesn't have his license. He wants to use it as a scanner until he gets his license. All of the frequencies he wants to monitor are in the 400 range. So a couple things here. I don't know which radio that is, and I'm surprised. It covers one of the ham bands, but no other. The range UHF 240 to 250 is not an amateur radio band. So I will reiterate my advice, my standard advice, that don't buy any equipment until you have the corresponding license, or at least have passed the corresponding test. For example, if you're a tech, I would recommend against buying a big HF rig until you actually pass your general. Then go buy it. I've seen too many people, and I'm talking about bunches of people over my ham radio career, who start out really well-meaning, buy some really nifty piece of equipment, and then for whatever reason never get their license. They may just not have, they may not be good testers, or they just get interested in something else, or the family objects or something like that. So I really do recommend that you hold off on that. What UK? Let's see. Shielding the PC and USB devices to protect from RFI. Well, one, follow good grounding practices. I have a video, one of my early SDA videos, I think it might even be number 8, that is about grounding, and it covers most of those questions, and that helps a lot. From Germany, from Oregon, not much real estate for practical wideband antenna for listening to HF with old boat anchors. Well, if you're going to listen to HF with old boat anchors, then just put up a wire outside and string it all around. The longer the better, the higher the better, and that'll work with the old boat anchors if you're just looking to receive. It's a long wire antenna. You can tune it and transmit into it, but generally you want some kind of resonant antenna. Brand spanking new to the hobby, wondering what computer programs do you use to scan on your PC, and what rigs would you need to do so? Well, if you're looking to scan UHF, VHF, I think you could do that right with the radio. If you want to use the scan feature of an SDR type radio, SDR Uno, which is the software that goes with SDR Play, has a scanning feature and memories and things like that. It is possible to make HF receivers scan. Most of them do have the ability to scan their memory frequencies. So you can set up your radio to do that. Hello from San Diego. Probably warmer there than here. It's 37 right now. We're just going on with manufacturing. Every trap on my brand new Cushcraft A3S with 40 meter kit had to be rebuilt. It's a quality control problem at Cushcraft. I'd contact them. Your antenna is under, if your antenna is under warranty, talk to them. Maybe you should get a different one. Sorry to hear that A3S is with the 40 meter kit had to be rebuilt. That is really unfortunate. Sorry to hear that. Okay, next we've got from Jim Merrill. Okay, Jim is W8JBM. He submitted a question about a fan dipole versus individual dipoles mounted each at a half wave high off a tower mast, then to the tree. Well, the 80 meter antenna needs to be about 132 feet in the air to be half wavelength in the air. If you've got the trees, by all means do it. Be a very nice antenna. He wants to put them at their half wave height and feed each one separately. I see no reason why that wouldn't work. It sounds like a lot of work. You'll get about the same performance off of every antenna doing that. Just wanted to clarify a little bit. The fan dipole in the question would house the antenna at the halfway of the 80-meter section, yes, with the others attached slightly underneath. Individual antennas would be at their half-wave heights relative to their bands. Okay. Multiple feed lines. The one problem you might have is 40 and 15, because the 15-meter antenna will often resonate, the 40-meter antenna will often resonate on 15. So, hello, Florida, India. Shivram Sagar from India. Hello, VU3 OVD. It's past midnight over there, so staying up late. I'm flattered. Okay, we have 77 watching now. This is from Russell Reedy, call sign K9RPR. Can you recommend a good antenna analyzer that's not overly expensive, maybe in the neighborhood of $300, that will cover many of the HF bands as well as VHF, UHF? I currently hold a tech license, but planning on upgrading to general class soon. Good, to gain more HF privileges. I like your experiment with different antenna designs, and I'm hoping a good analyzer will help with that. Any advice would be appreciated. Yes, I do have a suggestion. It is this is the MFJ 269C. This covers 160 all the way through to the 70 centimeter band. So there's your antenna. It's a very popular antenna analyzer. I have the 259B, but it does not cover 440. Interactive DNA, remember you from some video tutorials. How are you doing? Fine. The channel's doing great. I'm up to 45,000 subscribers. Thank you, all of you. Let's see, right down the road from you, and not quite sure I understand that one. Okay. Let me go back to this one. Okay. I need somebody to switch for me. This is a one-man thing where I need 5 eyes and 5 hands. This is from Roger, K1VNP. After a number of years of returning to the greatest hobby of all, in returning I had to replace all the equipment I once had and attempting to work from an apartment with the firm restriction of using outside antennas. I purchased the Super 8 antenna and using a mini tripod for support. I looked that up on the internet, the Super Antenna 80/6, and could not find anything. There's no about page. There's no indication of who the people are that are doing it. I've never heard of that antenna, but according to the website, it's the cat's meow. First thing I thought about that thing was, boy, it's going to need radials. Receiving is extremely poor. You know, if you're in an apartment house, they may have wrapped it with foil to keep the drafts out and stuff like that, which unfortunately makes that a Faraday cage. You need it out on your deck or something like that. The radial counterpoise arrangement is a major problem. It is also the key to making a difference with that antenna. On all bands, SWR is extreme. Would the radial placement be the major cause for SWR? Yes. Would it also affect reception? It can. What I'm not sure of is if this antenna is indoors or outdoors. If it's outdoors, it needs to be basically on the ground, or else you're going to have to put some radials up that come right up to the base of the thing on the mini tripod. Good luck with that antenna. I have to admit, this is the first time I've heard of that particular antenna. The website promises a lot, but I can't really say. Okay, this, let's see. How far can an S-band antenna dish transmit in direct line of sight? S-band antenna. Well, if you're using it for ham radio, it can get as far as the moon. Dish transmit, I don't think is S-band. Don't know. Let's see. Very happy to see you after watching lots of your videos from TA4AEI. 5G is the microwave of the chosen people for Revenge of the Oven. Oh, good grief. I don't know what that is. Take that one. I'm sorry. Please, no politics on here. Do you show how a show on the bull saying GT3WP and how to program it? Usually when I do a review on a handheld and there's an Anytone on its way to me, I'll try to include something in there about the programming. Do you have a good reference for looking up the band quality on any given day? There is one. If you go to my site at ke0og.net, ke0og.net, you'll see a little banner that's got current HF conditions, and it's got on there where it came from and a link, and you can go there and find those, and you can embed those in your own website or just check that website to see what conditions are like for HF. There's actually quite a network out there that keeps track of HF conditions. Some of them are clouded in super science jargon, and some of them, like the one I just mentioned, are a little more available. Okay, this next one is from Hamilton, K1HMS. Says, your videos are a great service to ham radio. I didn't want to post anything critical in the comments. Well, please go ahead. If you find an error in any of my videos, please put it in the comments so that way other people can see that something is wrong. If I disagree with you, I'll say so, but put them in the regular comments. Also, if you have a different point of view and you state it civilly, I will allow those comments to stay up there. So have you tested your MFJ 2104 and 7580 meters yet? No, I just unboxed it. It's all sitting on the table in the studio. Let's see. Okay, Alpha Delta surge protector. The ceramic capsule is argon filled at low pressure with two conics forming a spark gap. Okay, so there's a spark gap there. The argon plasmas means turns to plasma. At high voltage, the Z, or the impedance, drops to low in nanoseconds. It reliably remains in plasma down to 60 volts or so. Actually, Alpha Delta has two different gas tubes, one for high power, one for low power. The gas discharge tube, yes. They have a shunt capacitance of less than 1 picofarad, so it's hardly anything. So they work well through UHF. Alpha Delta clips off the axial lead, so it is just long enough to contact the center conductor. This isn't meant to be a spark gap. I know, it's not. The spark gap is inside the plasma tube. A spark gap here would be uncontrolled and it would open. Yeah, I know. Polyphasers use gas discharge tube pills without leads and has a more dependable contact method. I like the Alpha Delta price better and use them in the shack but not in the field. I don't usually worry about it when I'm out in the field, which means with the travel trailer and a simple portable antenna. But I don't disagree with anything he said. I mean, that's how the antennas work. Let me just diagram that. If I can get over here to there. Okay. The way these things work, you've got the coax cable with the center conductor like this, okay? And then the coax cable is again like this, and what they do inside the surge protector is they've got a tube here. There's a tube, and the tube has in it points. They're conical, okay, like this. And then this right here is connected to ground, okay. Now there is a gas in here. He says argon. I presume that's true. So there's a gas, an inert gas. That's the important thing. So if there is a transient which comes down this line, and this could zap your receiver, what happens is a spark will form right in here. It's a very tiny little spark. But what this spark does, and the whole tube, I mean, actually can create quite a spark in there if there's a lot of energy to dissipate. It's the voltage is too high here, it shorts, and the maximum voltage across here, according to alpha delta, is more like 30 volts. And so that keeps your receiver from seeing anything greater than 30 volts. So there, I'll just put the lightning up out over there. Now, as soon as the discharge is over, the gap goes away. Or the gap, not the gap, the plasma goes away, and it's sort of self-resetting. Now, and there's some circumstances, if it's a big discharge, it will melt these little pieces of metal here, and it'll short across there. And so after that, you're going to see a real high SWR when that's shorted. And your transmitter will fold back, and so it will protect itself. And then you have to replace the little tube. That's all you have to replace. You don't have to replace the housing or anything like that, just the tube. So it's nice to keep a couple extra on hand. I run all my antennas through this kind of an arrangement. It's from Alpha Delta. Alpha Delta makes these, also polyphaser. Okay? Well, shoot, that was just about an Ask Dave video in itself, wasn't it? Okay. Okay, you two people. Am I planning on using the octopus antenna for portable? Yeah, probably. We'll see how it goes. The thing is, you want to keep the hem sticks with their stinger out. You want to keep them positioned so you don't end up spending all your time retuning. And I think I can throw them in the back of my truck and they'll be okay. But they're too big to store in the travel trailer. Dave, do you have any experience with quad-band mobile antennas such as the Diamond CR8900A? I don't. Diamond makes mobile antennas. MFJ makes lots of mobile antennas. There's lots of different people who make them. People who go mobile, I mean, that's almost a sub-hobby in itself. Let's see. Rich from Wabash, 10 meter allows phone on sideband. Is the rule of thumb that's always upper or lower? Where are we in the solar cycle? Okay, the general rule of thumb is above 10 megahertz, it's upper sideband. Below 10 megahertz, it's lower sideband. And that comes from the old architecture of radios built back in the 60s and 70s that had, the way they did the heterodyning, it would either flip the signal or not flip the signal. Okay. Now there's one exception to that. 60 meters is upper sideband, but otherwise that's the general rule of thumb. Okay. Will you go to any ham radio fair in Europe in 2019? Boy, I'd love to. I would really love to. Friedrichshafen is one I just would love to get to. Okay, here's one on digital hotspots for DMR, D-Star, and C4 FM. It's from Peter Johnston. VA6ST. Great video. I've always done mostly analog stuff in the hobby except for some PSK, so I'm basically a digital dummy. I was wondering how to set up a talk group and if they can be made private. Okay, talk group, we're talking DMR. Okay. Also not sure I understand how one spot allows DMR to talk to C4 FM or D-Star. The one spot is just flexible. It's how you program it. And now, as far as setting up a talk group, you'd have to do that through Bandmeister or the Motorola Club. So I think you'd have to go to Bandmeister, bandmeister.com, and figure out what they go through. See, the thing is, if you set up a talk group, it's a talk group that anybody can use. And in terms of private talk groups, I think you'd have to all be local. You can do that locally if you're all on one repeater, but not through the open spot. Okay. Thanks for helping me study and pass my tech in general. Well, congratulations. And be studying for extra this winter. That's cool. All right. This is from John Holbrook, KI7ZXL. Really enjoy your YouTube videos. Learned a great deal from you. Thank you. You're welcome. Just received my general license back in August this year. Good for you. I'm getting my station together and very interested in CW on the 160 and 80 meter bands. Well, you can certainly do that. I think you're going to find most activity on 40. But go ahead and take a look at those because you can get some fine DX with those things. Wondering if I could do a video tutorial on the Beverage antenna. I could in theory. I don't have enough room to make one. They're very long. They're several wavelengths long, held about 8 or 10 feet in the air so you don't decapitate yourself when walking under it, and has to be terminated in its characteristic impedance. So you have to fiddle a little with that because it's different for every antenna. The Beverage antenna has very low gain. In fact, it has negative gain. But it also is extremely low noise. It's in terms of self-generating noise. It's very much horizontally polarized antenna. So if I understand it correctly, it's called a traveling wave antenna. It's different from a dipole. It is not a dipole. I am on record as saying that the fundamental antenna is the dipole. Well, that's true most of the time, but there are other types of antennas, including the Beverage and the rhombic. Quite specifically, using a separate transceiver and receive antenna with older transceivers and modern transceivers. A lot of the modern transceivers allow you to convert one of the coaxial inputs on the back of the radio to a receive-only antenna, and then you can tell it when you program it, I want to use this antenna for transmit, this antenna for receive. My FTDX 3000 does that, and the icons you mention here, the 7610, 7700, 7800, and 7851, are high-end radios. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you can do the separate receive antenna with those natively. You don't have to put up any kinds of coax switches or anything like that. Yes, you can. Now, the Beverage antenna is also very directional in the direction of the antenna, toward the end of it, so from the shack in that direction. It's quite directional, and so if you've got gobs of land, like 40 acres or something like that, then by all means put up 2 or 3 in different directions. Of course, if you're doing that, it'd be fun to put up a rhombic, but a rhombic needs pretty tall poles to get up there. It'd be nice to have a 100-foot pole. I don't have my Soylent this week. What am I doing? Okay. A few people then. What are my thoughts on the ether? Been reading a lot of Steinmetz recently. Steinmetz is a German scientist, came to the United States. He is considered the father of the grid, basically. He was an electrical engineer, worked for General Electric. He was an interesting little fellow. He was crippled severely. Although he could stand, his body was badly distorted. But boy, I tell you what, he made up for it with his mind. He was way ahead of everybody else in determining how AC power really works in the real world. And the grids, the big grids that we have today, there's 3 in the U.S., are based directly on Steinmetz's work. Now, back then, the ether was AETHER or just ETHER. It was assumed that electromagnetic waves had to have some medium to travel through, just like sound requires air, okay, and sonar requires water and all of these kinds of things. That there simply had to be what they called the luminiferous ether. And it was something you couldn't see or feel or measure, but that's what these waves traveled through. They were disturbances in the ether. Well, if you look at the math, and you look at electromagnetic field theory and Maxwell's equations and things like that, it turns out you don't need an ether. The way electromagnetic waves propagate, whether they're a wave or a particle or both, all of this kinds of things like that. Yes, there are radio wave photons. It gets really complicated, but the fact is that the general scientific consensus, and by that I mean 100% of all scientists, will tell you, no, there's no ether. The electromagnetic waves propagate in a field, which is a mathematical term for something that has a set of properties that can easily be measured. And we have an electric field, magnetic field, and actually the two of them combined together are the electromagnetic field. It's not a thing, it's a concept, but that's how these waves propagate. I think all the high-end manufacturers are on the way to SDR power devices. You bet. I mean, the heterodyne, the old super heterodyne receiver is now obsolete. Okay? There's the statement. I made the statement. And some people will jump up and down and so on, but I made the statement. Super heterodyne radios are obsolete. Everything is going to, they're going digital samples right at the antenna, with some buffering for protection, but right at the antenna, and then everything is digital thereafter, and vice versa, going back the other way. So let's see, moving to HOA restricted community in a few months, and afraid the hobby will be impacted. Any idea if a mag loop in the attic would have problems penetrating a concrete tile roof? Probably not, but boy, I'd really suggest you try and put a dipole up there, and maybe try a portable antenna like this octopus or something like that you can set outside, use it, and then take it down and put it back inside. Buddy pole is a similar antenna for that. Okay, let's see how we're doing on time. We've got 74 watching. It's a little bit less than last week. We had 100 at our peak last week. If there's anything that I can do to improve the live feed, please let me know, and I'll make it live. Okay, this is from Robert Jeffrey. No call sign, a retired U.S. Navy. I have an MFJ SWR meter that has ranges from 6 meters to 70 centimeters. What is your recommendation for an affordable SWR meter for 160 meters to 6 meters? Well, lots of people make them. I think your best bet is to go to MFJ because they have by far and away the largest variety of S meters imaginable. Also, a lot of their tuners, manual tuners, even automatic tuners, have SWR meters right on them. Now, you didn't say which MFJ meter that was, but go to the MFJ website and look up SWR meters. You'll find a gazillion of them. And they all work about the same. Some are real big, like this. Some are pretty small. Some of them have crossed needles. You have to look at where the needles cross to see the SWR. That can be a little hard sometimes. And others will measure it electronically. I have one from MFJ. Here it is, right here. And I'll put it over here. Okay, this is an MFJ watt meter. It has range for HF and VHF, okay, and it is a watt meter as well as a digital SWR meter, and it is powered. It takes 12 volts into here, okay, and then it will tell you when you transmit how many watts you're transmitting, how many watts are being reflected, and what the SWR is. So this is a nice little meter. It's a little bit on the pricey side, but I did a video on this. Go to my channel and search for the MFJ 849. It's nice because you don't have to, do the cross needle thing and so on. So it's a nice little one to look at there. I don't use it in my station because this won't handle the 500 watt output of my amplifier. You need a different SWR meter to put that there. By the way, measuring SWR between the radio and the amplifier tells you nothing about the SWR between the amplifier and the antenna. There we go. Okay. We're going to still run behind here, I think. Let's see, what else have we got? End feed down the gutter? Yeah. Did I retire or not? And if you did retire, what job did I have? I did retire. I retired from IBM in 2013. And I was an IT architect, which is their way of saying engineer. I have a master's degree in engineering and a bachelor's in mathematics. And so I retired from being an engineer, and this is what I do now. My retirement project is this YouTube channel. So this is from Joe, KE0STP, asking, will you be updating your general class guide for the new questions soon? Well, it depends on soon. The new questions are going to be, there is a new set of questions coming out next year. So I'm not going to update the general class videos until then. Now, I am, in theory, doing the tech updates so that the tech will be updated, because the tech were 2 editions out of date. So I'm about a third of the way through doing the tech videos, and frankly, I keep getting pulled aside by other things. Let me know if you're really looking forward to the updated tech videos, and I'll get right on those, because the new tech questions started in July of this year, now 5.5 months ago. Okay. There's not that much different in the tech questions. A question or two about SDR, and that's about it. And it's Emmett. Talk to Emmett at Radio Waves, and it is WAZE. Emmett, I've met him. I met him at Dayton. Nuclear ship Savannah. Live feed is 599. Thanks. Great. Good deal. Okay, this one's a little longer. From Richard A. Hartford. Call sign W4ZXE. For your listener and subscriber, but a little short in the tip jar, please don't worry about that. The videos are free. All my information is free. The tip jar and stuff like that is for those who want it to stay that way, free for everybody. And I really appreciate your support. I get money from YouTube, some money from YouTube for the advertising revenue. I get some in the tip jar from people who put tips in there. Patreon is a way where you can make a monthly support. They're becoming a patron. By the way, all that income is taxable to me. I pay the taxes. I keep track of it very, very carefully. And I extend my enormous appreciation to those of you who do extend your support. But please, you don't have to. Don't feel that you have to put something in the tip jar in order to get an answer to a question. Just finished watching your video on Chinese radios 174. I think that's the one where the FCC put out this public notice saying, "Yea, verily, we interpret the law this way." And the ARRL has gone back to them and said, "Yea, verily, you're wrong." And so it's in the middle of a contest between the league and the FCC officials. In the meantime, I wouldn't worry about it. Okay, I'm pleased that the FCC is finally doing something about these radios. You know, it'd be nice if the ones intended for the ham radio market were actually only operative on the ham radio frequencies. I've said that from the beginning. The Chinese can't seem to get that through their heads. You know, the Chinese manufacturers have come a long way since the original Baofeng UV3R. They've come a long way. They've really altered their menu structures so that you can program them. They've studied the American and European markets a little bit. They're unlike the Japanese. The Chinese manufacturers will ship you a programming cable along with the radio, and Baofeng wants you to use Chirp, which is free with your radio. For some specialized radios, they have the software on their website or else Radiodity's website. And so one thing Chirp hasn't done, and neither has RT Systems, is start working with the digital radios. They need to do that. In fact, I met RT Systems at the Albuquerque Hamfest, and I told them flat out, I said, "You're going to get left behind if you don't fix your systems to deal with the digital radios." He wasn't real happy that I said that, but I did. Sorry about the cough. The Ouray County Chorus is having its Christmas concert this afternoon, and I am one of the 3 basses among the 20 people in the chorus. So we're putting on our public performance later today, and I got to keep from coughing. Okay, now I'll just condense this. He's saying that these radios are being sold in the open market, sporting goods stores, things like that, and nothing on there that indicates that you are transmitting somewhere you shouldn't be transmitting. He is one of these militia group people down in Florida, and has discovered that members of his group are using Baofengs on whatever frequencies they feel like using, which is the problem with the way these Chinese radios are marketed. They're in it for the money. Okay, let's be honest. They're in it for the money. There is a ham radio community in China, but it's nowhere near big enough to soak up the output of all of these radios. So they got them to move to FRS bands and things like that. He says the $64,000 question is, do you think the FCC will crack down on these radio suppliers and make them sell only specific band radios? That is certainly what the FCC would like. And frankly, I'm right there with them on that. I would like that too. But where I respectfully disagree with the FCC is whether or not hams can use these radios on ham radio frequencies for which they have licenses. And frankly, I see no reason why not. So, along with that, and address the packaging, you can go to Walmart and buy a bubble pack, radios and sorting. Yeah. FRS, you don't need a license. GMRS, you do need a license, but it's a matter of simply applying for it, paying the fee, and you've got a license. Hunters around here prefer the GMRS radios because they're a little bit more powerful. So they go pay whatever they have to pay, it's not very much, and get their GMRS license. And they have more frequencies available and more power. And they can put bigger antennas on it. The FRS radios cannot have replaceable antennas. The antennas have to be part of the radio. Okay. All right. Okay. We're up to Saturday, December 8th. Mark Strawcutter, KC3MLA, wants me to do a video on using RG6's feed line, and so on. The thing about RG6, it's 75 ohm coax, so it's not 50 ohm. Most everything in radio is 50 ohm, and that includes commercial radio, stuff like that. However, RG6, since it's cable, that's the cable radio, or cable network impedance, and is also used for things like dish and that sort of thing. You can go down to Home Depot and buy huge quantities of RG6 for very little money. It's a lot cheaper. So I'm going to keep this one out. I'm going to do a video on RG6 cable. Okay, hi from New Hampshire. We're at 73 watching right now. Nice touch. Haven't seen any Chinese FT8 digitransmitters on any bands. No, the Chinese have all been VHF, UHF. Always hear the Japanese ham radio operator sounds, but never from China. Yeah, the ham radio community in China is not very big yet. You know, it's interesting. In the Soviet Union, which back when it was a very authoritarian state, really pushed amateur radio. They treated it as a sport, and it was an activity as part of their official government sports federation. And people would compete in contests and see who could get the highest CW speed and things like that. And the Soviet hams were strongly encouraged to communicate with hams outside the Soviet Union. Now, you wouldn't get much of a conversation with them, but you'd get a DX-type contact with them. And, oh, this is kind of funny. Years ago, when I worked for, I was working on a defense project. I had to report any contact with Soviet bloc countries. So I would, and the sunspot cycle back then was marvelous, and so I was making all these DX contacts at night, and then I'd have to report them the next day, and the security people were just getting really paranoid about this. So I finally recorded a contact and took it down to them, and they said, there's so much static you can hardly hear each other. And he said, yeah, that's ham radio. So finally, after a while, I didn't have that, reporting anymore, but that, trying to get them to understand what ham radio was interesting. I kept doing it. I kept talking to them. Okay, we're up to 86 contacts now. Let's see, Vernal, Utah, nice temple there. Would use a polyphaser and temporary ground rod at campsite when in the field working ARRL field day, for example. You certainly could. The problem is getting that ground rod back out of the ground. But you could do that. Now, when you're right there at field day, if there's lightning that comes through, you can just physically disconnect everything. Might be just as effective, because during field day, everything is always attended. And if everybody's going to go to sleep for a few hours, disconnect all the radios from all the antennas. I remember one field day here in Montrose where a lightning storm came through, and I hopped into one of the trailers. It was a nice Faraday cage, and the wind, I thought for certain that trailer was going to go tumbling down the hill. I was mentally planning how I was going to avoid getting banged up by the radio in there, but the wind finally died down. Merry Christmas from Bedford, New Hampshire. Thank you. Let's see. This is from Dennis Dopke, W8ITC. It says, not a question, but heard you mentioned you had an HW16. I do have one in the basement. That I bought it at a swap fest because I just wanted to have the same radio that I used when I first got into ham radio. I had one also. My first HF rig came in as a novice back then, 73. Sold it for $75. Wish I didn't now. Yes, well, that's what I did. I sold it to trade in on a Yaesu FT201 because I had just gotten my general and I wanted to get on the general bands and I had no money, so I had to save every penny I had and trade in the radio. If you ever decide to make a schedule for contacts, maybe an Ask Dave net, please post it on your site. I think I will do that in the future. What we'll try doing is when this part of the live feed is over, I'll get on HF and I'll figure out how to get the audio into OBS here, and we can go have some fun on 40 meters or 20 meters or something. Do have a question. Thinking about getting the Cushcraft R9 vertical. I had an R7 and loved it. R9 should be fine, although note that on 80 meters, the part of the 80 meter band that is covered is only about 25 kilohertz wide. It's a tiny slice. Any thoughts, or have you heard any comments on it? Yeah, it's fine vertical. I do have lots of property space for antennas, just not many supports for wires, really open land. Okay, I recommend that instead of the R9, which operates with its own counterpoise and should be about 10 feet in the air or more, okay, that you look at, and this is really different advice from what I give to people with small lots. You've got big lot, so you've got room for radials. So I would suggest you look at an antenna like the Butternut HF9V, which is sold by DX Engineering, or some other multiband vertical antenna that's designed to be ground mounted with radials. And, go out in a corner of your land that you don't use much, stick that antenna up and put out, go down to Home Depot and buy a couple 500-foot rolls of insulated copper wire and then cut them up into radials and just blanket the ground with these radials. Put some stones down to keep the ends down and so on. And you will actually do better, I think. That's what I have done with my vertical. I have the HF9V. It's a stinker to tune, but once you get it tuned, it's a pretty phenomenal antenna if it's got lots of radials. Okay. I know the 500-foot roll of copper wire from Home Depot is, I think, over $100. Got a Redivus DMR 2-meter from a good friend. I've contacted many hams on DMR so far. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Those talk groups, some of them go worldwide. Can we chat on DMR on 2 meters? I suppose it's possible. It is possible. Okay. This is from Julius Mazzarella, or Mazzarea, depending on which version of Spanish you use. In Spain, the double L is Elia. In Mexico and South America, it's just Ya. Yeah, it's like a Y sound. I don't know if you're the person to ask. I would like to learn how a radio wave is produced from a voice, broadcast via an antenna, and then received and converted to the original voice. I followed your math video okay on complex numbers, since I have a math background from graduate school. AM modulation would do just fine, and to make it simple using crystal radios. There are so few parts that the process must be really fundamental. It actually is. I have heard that people can even receive a radio signal in their dental work. Well, I will tell you that those who can do so because you have dissimilar metals that are next to each other, and that acts as a diode, and strong radio waves will cause it to detect. That's what a diode does, and you'll get actual vibrations in your teeth. And people who do that don't like it. So a little dental work, you can get that fixed. Okay. We seem to get confused how the voice intelligence gets onto the carrier in enough detail that I can both show it mathematically and visually. I know there's rectification, amplification, resonance involved in the process. Okay, he's asking for a semester graduate course in electrical engineering. Can DC produced by a carbon style microphone is a voice intelligence, but don't know how it gets onto the carrier. Well, okay. I'll tell you what. I'll set this aside for a video. Maybe I can do an overview of the end-to-end radio process from audio, listenable audio to listenable audio at the other end. I think that'd be kind of fun to do that. Yeah, DMR is becoming real popular. The reason it's becoming popular is because the 3 Japanese manufacturers came up initially with 3 different digital voice standards. One of them, Kenwood now, goes along with ICOM for the D-Star, which is the protocol suggested by the Japanese Amateur Radio League. It's a standard. Yaesu, however, continues to go its own way with C4, I want to say C4 ISR, that's something entirely different, with C4 FM, and they just don't get together. These are incompatible. So while they're fighting it out, all the Chinese manufacturers are all going DMR. And there is a large infrastructure for DMR, and it's getting bigger all the time. We have a DMR repeater right here in Grand Junction, and I have a little 10-element UHF Yagi that I use to talk to it when I test DMR radios. And it looks like I've got one coming my way right now. Okay. Oh my goodness, we're over time. I'm sorry. I don't want to do that to you. We'll keep it at an hour. And any feedback that you can give me on this that would make the live stream better, please do that. Again, hamradioanswers at gmail.com. I should have a little overlay I can pop up here. Apparently this OBS Studio will do magical and marvelous things. You just have to spend the week with it or something. Okay. Yeah. I have a Radioddity GD77 here too. This is, when people ask you what's your 2-meter radio, I say it's a Radioddity GD77. When they first came out with the GD55 on DMR, they messed up on it. An interesting story. The Chinese wanted to do DMR, so they got the specification for it. It is a spec. It's an international standard. And they followed the international standard and put out these radios that didn't work with DMR. And the reason was because they built the radio to the standard. The problem is that no standard covers everything. Okay, and so they found that these early radios, the GD55 and so on, the radios really fell short. And, they finally got their act together and made DMR radios that worked. So, and they're excellent. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. We're going to save these for next week, plus any further questions that I get. We're up to December 9th, so we're making good progress. We're almost caught up here. And again, suggestions, anything that you would like, you can put them in the Ask Dave form on dcasler.com, or just hamradioanswers@gmail.com will get to me too. I will reply to the hamradioanswers@gmail.com and the Ask Dave questions on this live feed. I won't be, in general, I will not be sending direct replies. They'll be answered here. I need to update my website to say that. Okay, I'm going around in circles. It's 7 after. I've got an errand I need to run before the concert. So, 73 to all of you. It's just really fun to do this. It's like talking to a whole group of people. We've got 85 people watching now, and several hundred will watch it afterwards. So remember, noon Mountain Time Saturday, which is 1900 UTC during the winter here, 1900 UTC on Saturday. So Saturday UTC, 1900. So until we next meet, I am going to say 73, and we'll see you again next week. Should have another video out on Thursday, and it should be a test of either the buddy pole or the octopus. I will test them separately. I may test them against each other, but I will do a video on each one. So thank you so much. 73 to everybody. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you, and we will talk again soon.